everyone. I am Kalpana Pandit, actor, independent producer, and today I am representing the House of Pandit Production House as well as Entertainment and Sports today. And let me say I'm very delighted. I had the honor of watching the world premiere of an incredible documentary on postpartum depression, When the Bough Breaks. And after the premiere, which was received overwhelmingly with a positive response by a jam-packed audience, I am honored to have with me the director of the film, Jamielyn Lippman, with me. And welcome to the show, and thank you for being with us. I am very delighted to have you.
Great,
and also a huge thank you for creating this amazing film. So first of all, Jamielyn, may I ask, what inspired you to make this particular film on this particular subject?
Well, first off, thank you so much for having me and coming to see the film. It means a lot. So, this originally started about 6 years ago. I met Tanya Newbold. I was making a documentary about actors. And Tanya's an actress, and I interviewed her. We got to talking afterwards. And she said, you know, she had a 1-year-old daughter, and I had just had a baby. And we were talking, both being moms, and she said, you know, I had really bad postpartum depression when I had my daughter, and I couldn't find information about it. You know, there really needs to be a documentary about this. Would you be interested in doing something like that? And I thought, well, I didn't have it. I don't really know anything about it. All I knew about it is what I think most people think about it, is what you see in the news, and these horrible, tragic things that happen to kids. And but then, you know, I said, you know what? Let me look into it, and we'll go from there. So I went home that day, and I started doing some research on online, and I looked, and this actually affects today. It affects, at the time, it affected 1 in 7 women, but today it affects 1 in 5 women. New moms after childbirth, and the number is actually now, they're saying that statistics, it's more like 1 in 4. I was part of this group online called City Mommy, and there's all these like kind of subcategory groups, and I posted an ad saying looking for women to interview for a documentary about postpartum depression. Just wanted to see what kind of response I would get, and within 24 hours had over 100 women write wanting to share their stories. And it blew my mind. It just showed me that this is a huge epidemic, and people are talking about it. Yes. And if I have all these misconceptions, everybody else must feel the same. And a lot of these women, when they were writing, it said, you know, that their main reason for wanting to share their story was to help other women, because they had the same thing. They couldn't find information. There's so much stigma and shame around it. And as a filmmaker and a mom, I felt compelled. There was no other option. I had to make this documentary.
Excellent, and I applaud you for that, because the way they have portrayed the film is so real and yet so captivating, because as a documentary, you know, it is important that we pull in audiences from all across the world to watch it. And the way she has presented the material, and the real life protagonists who are actually in the film have actually gone through this condition, and some of them are still fighting it. And also she has shown some of the really tragic instances, as she said, about what has happened to the mothers or what has happened to the child, which has ended in terrible tragedy. So may I ask, Jamielyn, during the making, do you have any very memorable experiences? This is more of just an interaction so that the audiences know what kind of memorable experiences you had during the filming. Obviously you must have a ton of them, but please tell our audiences a couple of what you would like to.
Well, first off, when I decided that I was going to basically put my life into this project, and it's, you know, starting it from scratch, I knew that I didn't want to make just a cause educational film. That's not the kind of documentarian that I am, and that's not the kind of, I'm a storyteller, and albeit it's 100% real, and but my style is, I just thought, you know, for me, I don't want talking heads of just women sitting around talking about postpartum depression, because that's going to be a very limited audience. That's not going to reach a lot of people, and if you hear about that, unless you have it or you're pregnant, it didn't feel that it would be of mass appeal. And so I thought, okay, there's got to be a through line. There's got to be someone to care about. And fortunately, Lindsay was someone that we met in the early beginning stages, and she was still suffering, and she agreed to let me film her and have this entire thing documented. So we get to go through that process of having that kind of main character that's threaded throughout the entire film. And then my style, just something I like to do, and I really like it when I see it in documentaries. I'm a really big fan of Andrew Jarecki, who made The Jinx. And so I thought, you know what, we're going to bring a cameraman on the road and we're going to show how this entire thing unfolds. And so I think that now when you watch the film, and from the response the other night, it appeals to so many. I mean, it appeals to everyone.
Yes.
And I think the biggest, not only is that my filmmaking style why I needed to do that, but I also knew for this cause, because it's such a, it's a public health issue. Babies are dying, women are dying. This is really serious stuff. I knew that it needed to reach as many people as possible, and I think the way that the film is, it will.
I surely think it will, because like I said, I was very lucky to be part of the world premiere. So Jamielyn, where do you see this film eventually reaching? What is your, I know myself, I would love for every single woman and man across the world to watch this, because there's also places in the film where you have shown partners who are extremely supportive of the women who are going through this. So where would you like to eventually reach with this film?
I mean, I'd like to, we kind of have a 3-tiered plan. I'd like to see it end up somewhere like HBO or Viceland or PBS Independent Lens, and then be released on all of the channels, Netflix, iTunes. That's kind of the plan with it. And to go back to your most memorable things, I mean, this was a very hard film to make emotionally. When I'm looking at a woman having her recount killing her child for 2 hours, that's hard to process, and it's a lot of sleepless nights come along with that. But I knew, so the memories are, I guess to say, like, the memories for me is when I saw how making this film already started to make change. Lindsay started a Facebook page early on, and she controls and runs that thing. She posts articles, she answers everybody's email, and to see from the women that I interviewed and how they felt after they got this off their chest, and they felt not alone. And once they shared how I saw that change them and change people around them, and then they started to speak out to other people, because that's the biggest thing about this, is the shame and the stigma, because nobody wants to be associated with what they think someone with postpartum depression is. And I think that's one of the driving forces of making, of really putting my life into this film for the past 6 years.
Yeah, and I actually see that. I see the journey actually captured in real time as time went on, and the women in the film went through emotional highs and lows, and how they dealt with it. Everything she has patiently and diligently captured on screen, and I think that's a very brilliant thing to do to help other women who are going through this. And I believe also the executive producer is Brooke Shields, who the book that she wrote, Down Came the Rain, was one of the reasons that you all connected with her and brought her on board.
Yeah, so Tanya, when she told me in the beginning, when she experienced it, she didn't know what was wrong with her. She was, never been depressed, and that's the thing, that this can happen to anyone. You can have all the help in the world and be the happiest person, have the best baby, and it can still happen to you. And so she didn't understand what was happening. She didn't even know that she could even possibly have something called postpartum depression. And so she got turned on to Brooke Shields' book, Down Came the Rain, and as she was reading it, she said, "Oh my God, this is what I have." And she said that book saved her. So when we met, it was always a goal of hers to have her involved. And she came on and narrated the film, and as an executive producer. So
and I congratulate you for also pulling in a powerful name in cinema, because what happens is when you associate a celebrated artist also with all your other artists in the film who are real life protagonists, it adds a tremendous dimension of other people wanting to watch it. So all of you, she's associated with it. Brooke Shields is supportive of this film, so please go and see it. It's a tremendous film. So my next question to you is, how do women across the world who may feel that maybe the problem is hitting them, maybe the condition is hitting them initially, how do they even start to seek help?
I mean, the first thing to do is to talk about it. So to tell your loved ones, tell your spouse, it can happen. And I want to explain that there's very, when we say that statistics being, at 1 in 4 women, 1 in 4 new moms after childbirth, that can be from the baby blues to the most extreme. When you're talking about psychosis, which is having a psychotic break with reality, which unfortunately can lead to infanticide, that's more like 1 in 2 in 1,000. But in this film we cover, baby blues to psychosis and everything in between. So if you feel there's something wrong and things are just not right, the key is to speak up about it and just to not keep it in, because keeping it in is what makes it get worse.
Yes.
There's a lot of support out there. PSI, Postpartum Support International. You can go on their website. They have a hotline that anyone can call any time of the day, and they'll have someone that can talk to them and give them help of how to
approach it.
Yeah, and I think that because it could be anything from sleep deprivation, hormonal changes, problems with breastfeeding. Your body chemistry changes when you have a baby, and I think that you need to have people around you. It does take a village. You need to ask for help, and that's the biggest key, because if you speak out, you'll recover from this.
Great. And you have, I believe in the film too, you have given the information about the hotline availability. Yes. On there, so that's brilliant too. Yeah. When you see the film, you can directly check, take the information off of there.
And our website, if you go to our website too, we have a section that has educational links that gives you all of the resources that you'll need, and that is www.whentheboughbreaksfilm.com.
Perfect. I also noticed, now that you brought it up, that you said it takes a village, and I did notice in the film that you had shown a couple of instances where there are certain cultures where there's huge support for women, because they understand that this is a period when a woman needs that break from her regular routine of life, because she's going through so much. I think that was also very, very brilliantly done, and I hope you continue maybe a sequel or something where you show more of this, where how different cultures and different women approach this particular issue, and it just helps to bring more awareness and helps us to understand how to solve it. So that was a very brilliant move on your part as well.
Thank you.
So finally, I'm very happy to have you here. I know you're a very busy person, so thank you for being here with us so much. But I have any final words that you would want to tell our audiences across the world about your film, and feel free to, please.
Yeah, I guess the final thing that I'll say is that there is no, you can't pick out or pinpoint what someone with postpartum depression would have, because it can happen to anyone. And I think you need to, if you have, that means that women that could be suffering in silence. So if you have friends that have new babies and you notice that they're not just quite right, feel free to speak out to them and ask if things are okay. Sometimes just having someone there can make all the difference in the world. And if you don't feel right, then just speak up. That's the most important thing.
Absolutely. And thank you for those final words with this interview. And I would strongly recommend every person go and watch the film When the Bough Breaks. And as soon as it's available in your areas, look out for it, watch it. It's a brilliant film. Thank you so much to Director Jamielyn Lippman, who's here with us. Thank you for your time and your information. We really appreciate it.